what the fuck. It's been a very, where do you want to do it? Right there? You want me to hold it? Okay. Baruch Hashem, it's been a very uplifting Shabbos. And I guess people still have koyach to hear more drashas because you showed up. Everyone knows the topic? No, they told you to show up and you showed up. We're talking about chinuch. So there's an old joke. 3 Jewish mothers are hanging out in Miami Beach, sitting on the boardwalk, and talking about what else? Their children. And one Jewish mother says to her other 2 friends, "You want to know how much my son loves me? You know how much he thinks about me? You know how important I am to him? Look at this." And she points to her watch. She says, "This is a $10,000 watch my son bought me. He spent all that money on me." And the other Jewish mother says, not to be outdone, she says, "You know, my Cadillac, $100,000 Cadillac that my son bought for me, that's how important I am. He got me a $100,000 car," which they all had to admit was more significant than a $10,000 watch. Not to be outdone, the third Jewish mother says, "You know, my son spends $250 a session on therapy twice a week, every week, for the past 15 years. And what does he do at every session? Talks about me." So they did the math and they figured 250 times 2 times 52 times 15. He spent the most amount of money on his mother. Every joke has a little truth. And unfortunately, I think the truth in that joke is that nobody can mess a kid up for life like a parent. Unfortunately. You know, we all have different relationships, some good, some not so good. But if a person's relationship with their parents isn't good, it can leave you with lifetime challenges. So I'm not here to talk about it from the perspective of children, because I'm not here that we should have tainas on our parents. That's not really the relevant point here. I'm more concerned with the haiva, with the present right now, the children that we are parenting, where we're in the middle of the process, and there's still something we can do about it if any improvement is needed. Now, some people may not need to improve their parenting, but if any improvement is needed, so what can we do? So the first thing is to think about this fact, how huge of a responsibility it is to be a parent. Like, really, they give you this person, and they say, take care of this person, and don't mess them up. And it's like so much responsibility. It's too much responsibility. And then if you think about it, it's even more responsibility than that, because if Stam, they just told you to take care of a person, and now you're responsible 100% for that person, that's one thing. But this is a young person. What do I mean by this is a young person? Why does that make it even scarier? Because everything that happens in a young person's life has so much more impact. Like, you think about it like this. Let's say you have a difficult year, for whatever reason. Let's say you're 50 years old, just makes the math easier. And you have a hard year. Okay, but then after you get over it and you move on, you get back on track. So that hard year was 2% of your life. But imagine if you're 5. Remember how time went so slow when you were 5? When you didn't like your teacher, let's say, at the beginning of the year, and you were doing a cheshbon, how long it is till the end of the school year, and it felt like forever. If you're 5, a year is 20% of your life. So you think about it, if we're going through some difficulties where we're distracted and we can't be completely present for our children the way we need to be, and for us it was a short amount of time, it was a blip, and for them it was a huge chunk of time, and it was at the very beginning of their life, meaning it was at the time when they were still forming their ideas about life and about reality and about themselves and about Hashem and about Yiddishkeit. Like all of that is happening. And like I'm saying, it's so easy to mess it up. So easy to get it wrong. And then to suffer lifelong consequences. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to talk you all out of being parents. You're already parents. I'm assuming if you came to a drasha about chinuch, you're already parents. You know, sometimes in learning, by Yidden, we're not afraid of questions. We like questions because the bigger the question, the bigger the answer. You just have to, you have to wait it out until we get to the answer. The bigger the apparent contradiction, the more that the problem seems unsolvable, then the more you know that the answer is going to be a big answer. So I'm being magdil the shaila. I'm intensifying the question on purpose. How is it possible that we as human beings are supposed to take responsibility for these little human beings and not mess up? It's a good question, huh? Okay, I want to answer it now without drawing it out anymore because I don't want to torture you. So let me try to explain it like this. Tell you a story. One time, maybe 20 years ago, had to have been 20 years ago, yeah. So, no, maybe more than 20, no, it was 21 years ago. They came out with this new thing called Google Image Search. And I was at the office where I was working, and I had to give a class to adults in the Aseres Adibris. Which, by the way, today was Parshas Yisro, so we all heard Aseres Adibris. And I wanted to show them how one of the luchais is bein adam lamakim, and the other luach, the other tablet, is bein adam lechaveroi. A known thing. So I didn't want to draw it out myself, so I Google image searched to see if somebody already did it. And what do you know? I found it. There was a nice list, 2 columns of the 10 commandments, 5 on this column and 5 on that. And looked good, but it didn't have the labels on it, where it said obligations between man and God, obligations between man and man. Look for another one. I'm looking. Oh, this one has it. Obligations between man and God, obligations between man and man. That's exactly what I wanted to teach. I printed it out really quickly. I was late already for the class. I grabbed the printouts. I ran downstairs. I handed it out. And after I handed out, one of the students, these are adult students, but one of the students asks, why is there 4 mitzvahs on one side and 6 on the other? I say, what? So I look at it, and I looked, yeah, it had bein adam lemakim on the first one, bein adam lechavera, and the other one, exactly what I wanted. But I saw, what did they do? They did 4 and 6. Who does 4 and 6? They took kibbud v'aim, which is number 5, and they did a little cut and paste, drag and drop. And I looked at it, and this is how I learned about Google Image Search. You have to be careful. It wasn't a Jewish website, whatever. Immediately when I looked, I saw what it was. Everyone hand it back in, throw it out. And that was, I learned my lesson. But afterwards, I was thinking about it. What did they do? They made it make sense. They fixed it. That kibbud av v'em, honor your parents, that makes sense. It's bein adam lechavera. It's an interpersonal relationship, just like don't steal. It goes with all the other mitzvahs that tell us how to treat people. Your parents are people. Makes sense. According to seichel enoshi, according to human intellect. The problem is it's completely wrong. Because kibbud av v'em is not like don't steal. Kibbud av v'em is like Shabbos. It's mamish bein adam lamakim. Now, how could it be your relationship with people is a form of how you serve Hashem? The Gemara says that shleisha shutfin yesh be'adam. There are three partners in a person. HaKadosh Baruch Hu va'aviv v'imai. The Holy One, meaning Hashem, and the person's father and the person's mother. So here's the deal. If you are a parent, yes, you are a person, but when it comes to your child, you are not just a person. You are a co-creator. You are elevated to a level of a partner with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ad kedei kach, that the mitzvah that your child has with you is not like mitzvahs they have with other people. Of course, the mitzvahs being adam l'chaveda also apply to your parents, but the unique relationship of a child to a parent, it's in a gather of how one serves a creator. So why am I telling you this? Not so that you should use that as the kibbud av v'em trump card. Let me speak about that for a second. You know, if you look in Shulchan Aruch, when it talks about Hilchas Kibbud av v'em. So at the beginning of the Siman, Reish Mem, it goes on at length talking about the chiyuv that the child has to the parent. At length. And it even says if the parents are unreasonable. It's based on some stories in the Gemara. The most famous story is the story of Dama ben Nesina. Even if the parents maybe are emotionally unstable, but kibbud av v'em, you have to listen to your parents. So it goes on and on and on, and explains really, unfortunately, even crazy parents are parents, and what they say, kibbud av v'em comes in and backs them up, co-signs them. But then, further along in the Siman, I think it's Sif Tes. Then it says, by the way, don't do this. Don't ever do this. And it doesn't say it as a suggestion. It says in the terms of halacha, the most strong language it can use, it says aser. Aser la'adam lahachbid ulei al banav. It is aser, it's forbidden to make the oil, the yoke, excessive on your child. And it says it's a mikshel. That if you're too demanding in kibbud av v'em, it's a mikshel, it's a stumbling block. And then if your child, chas v'shalom, stumbles, then that's on you. You caused them to stumble because you were too demanding. You should have been less demanding. Sha'av ha'meichel al kavedei, kaved al machel. It's a Gemara in Kiddushin, but it's brought in Shulchan Aruch. Sha'av ha'meichel al kavedei, kaved al machel. A father and a mother are allowed to be meichel their kavod. So when I tell you that you are a co-creator with Hashem, and your partners with Hashem in creating your child, I'm not telling you that so you should tell your child, worship me. I'm God in this house. Shulchan Aruch says, Asa lahachvid ulei, don't make the yoke excessive. Be as gentle as possible. Be mavater wherever possible. This is what Shulchan Aruch says. It's not a parenting book that I read somewhere. This is Shulchan Aruch. So why am I telling you this, that you are partner with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? I'm telling you for this one reason. That I asked you a few minutes ago when we started, who can take this responsibility? Who can carry this responsibility? It's too much. I can't do it. How am I not going to mess up my kid for life? And the answer is you, on your own, probably will mess up your kid for life. But good news, you're not on your own. You're with Hashem. And if you know that you're with Hashem, and you rely on Hashem, then not only you won't mess up your kid, but you'll give them a great childhood so that they can have a very successful life. But you have to know that you're partners with Hashem. What do I mean by that? Let me try to get more specific. Imagine you work for a company, and it's the lunch break. You go out for lunch. Who pays for lunch? You pay for lunch. It's your lunch break. It's your lunch. You pay for lunch. Imagine the boss comes over and says to you, we have very important clients coming in from out of town. I want you to take them out for lunch. And I want you to wine and dine them and close this deal. Now who pays for lunch? The company. You say to the boss, give me the company credit card. No problem. If you're on your own, if this is your project, raising this kid is your project, then it's on your personal card. And I hope you have a high credit limit. But if this is a partnership, that's what the Gemara calls it, shleisha shutfin. If this is a partnership with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, now it's on the company credit card. Let me get even more specific when I say put it on the company credit card. We all know that it's Pashat Anes that somehow we pay for raising our kids. If you look at the numbers, it doesn't make sense. If you would tell me when I got married how much money I was going to spend on my children, I wouldn't believe. Either I'd think, oh, you're telling me I'm going to be a millionaire? Or I would just tell you, no, it's not going to happen. And somehow, and I'm not saying it's easy all the time, we do make sacrifices, but somehow we do it. And I'm not just talking about rich families. I'm talking about all of us, we somehow do it. And we know that the secret is that we're not doing it. It's not us. That every child that's born is a bracha and brings with it brachas, and that whatever it's going to take to pay for this child comes from Hashem. It's not us. If it were us, only rich people would be able to do it. It's from Hashem. Hashem pays for your child. It's Hashem's expense. Again, I'm not saying it's easy, but somehow we do it. You think that the company credit card only covers financial expenses? Or do you understand that Hashem is also covering other expenses? Not just financial resources, but more importantly, a much more valuable currency, emotional resources. In other words, what you have to give your child is not limited to what you have to give your child. What you have to give your child is unlimited because it's coming from Hashem's unlimited resources. I'll give you a simple example that everybody, I think, can relate to. If you have a child, your first child, which is your only child at that point, you look at this child and you love this child with all of your heart. Now, a little bit later, you have a second child. Mathematically, the largest amount that you could equally love both children at this point is 50% of your heart. If you had a pie, and you wanted to give two people the pie, and they can each have the same size, the most that they can both get is 50%. So at that point, once you have two children, you can mathematically no longer love your child with all of your heart, unless you want to love one child 100% and one child 0. And if you have 10 children, the biggest equal share they could get, each one's going to get 10%. You have a pie, 10 people to serve from the pie, everyone gets a tenth. That's what you could do, I'm sorry. And begashmius, that's the rule. There's no way around it. But somehow, miraculously, you could have 10 children, you could have 20 children, and love them all with all of your heart. Why? Because again, it's not a human thing. It's a godly thing. So when we say, shloisha shutfin, you're just talking about conception, making babies, or we're talking about the fact that Hashem is with you the whole time, not just paying the bills, but backing you up emotionally. So as much love, whatever amount of love that all of your children need, you have access to. And it's not limited to the amount of love that you as a human being are carrying. This is especially important. I make this point often to parents who did not have a great childhood, who maybe even didn't feel loved as children. And they feel they cannot give what they were not given, which is a great point if all we had to give is what we personally had as people. So if you didn't get what you needed emotionally as a child from your parents, it's even more important to go to your other parent, to Avinu Shebashamayim. I have a parenting course, online parenting course, 6-week course. Baruch Hashem, at this point, over 2,000 mothers and fathers went through this journey with me. And I would say, maybe about half of them end up reparenting themselves. Meaning, as they're learning how to be there for their child the way their child needs them to be there for them, they start realizing the deficiencies in what they received. But instead of becoming despondent about it and saying, oh no, we're broken people, we didn't get what we were supposed to get. First thing I tell them is what I'm telling you now. Tell them it's not limited to you. You've got a company credit card. You weren't loved, but you need to love your child. Love them with Hashem's unlimited love. Tell you more, it's not just love. Patience. We feel like we're running out of patience. I have no patience. Okay, that's you. But as a parent, you're a partner with Hashem. You have access to Hashem's unlimited resources. You have infinite patience. Now you're going to say, I don't. Beferish, I do not have infinite patience. I just screamed at my kid today. Or some of you are saying, well, my kid is at home. I'm at the hotel, so I didn't scream at him today. But if he would have been here, I would have screamed at him today. And what I'm telling you is, yeah, that's possible. But you want to know something? There are plenty of parents who are not good parents. And yet, we just said that every parent is a partner with Hashem and has access to unlimited resources. How does that stem? If all parents have access to unlimited resources, then how could there ever be such a thing as a bad parent? What's the answer? It's Pashut. It's not Pashut? If you have access to unlimited resources, how could there even exist such a thing as a bad parent? What? They don't use it. That's it. It's Pashut. They don't use it. Which makes it a bigger tragedy. You're walking around with a company credit card with an unlimited credit line, and you're not even using it. Because you don't know about it. That's why, by the way, this Shabbos, the whole Shabbos, says on the sign, it's called a Klorkeit in Leben. Klorkeit means just knowing reality. Once you know reality, already half the problem is fixed. So you're going to tell me you don't have infinite patience. I'm going to tell you, yeah, you don't, but you have access to infinite patience. And the next time your child is pushing your buttons, instead of reacting as a person, stop a second and connect to Hashem and say, Hashem, back me up here. Help me respond to this child with infinite patience. You're going to tell me it doesn't work. How can you tell me it doesn't work? You didn't even do it yet. You just want to disagree. I'm telling you it does work. Not only because I did it, but I had the chutzpah to tell 2,000 people to do it, and nobody came back to me and told me it didn't work. Plenty of people came back to me and told me it did work. Nobody came back to me and told me it didn't work. Infinite wisdom. Infinite wisdom. Not your wisdom, Hashem's wisdom. What does that mean? That means that you're going to know everything? Everyone who's a parent all of a sudden knows everything? No. It means as much as your child needs. Remember, the resources are there for you to use for your child. So infinite wisdom means if your child needs to know something, you will know how to figure it out. I always tell this to parents who call me for parenting advice. I hope this is going to go over well, because sometimes people misunderstand it. Parents call me for parenting advice, and I say to them, I don't know, it's not my kid. But what do I mean by that? Why would Hashem give me the wisdom? Hashem didn't give me the child. It's your child. No, we don't know. We need to call you. We're asking you. Hold on a second. Did you stop? Did you try to connect? Did you try to be open to some inspiration? Because I want to tell you something. Parents have Ruach HaKodesh, not just when they name children, although beferish it says in Kabbalah that when they name children, parents have Ruach HaKodesh. But parents have a certain type of Ruach HaKodesh that experts don't have. And I wish parents felt more confident to use it. That when you need to guide your child, whether it's to find information for them or find information that will be helpful in order to parent them, like you're trying to find the right school or whatever it is, or you're trying to help them solve a problem in their life, you, the mother and the father, are the ones with the most direct access to wisdom. And instead, what do parents do? They farm it out and they call other people. And it's unfortunate. Even if it works, it's unfortunate, because you could argue it works because the parent is the mishaleach and they call the expert and they make the expert a shliach, like a father's really supposed to make the bris. He gives the shlichus to the moil. So yeah, you could even argue it works. But here's why it's still tragic even when it works. Because you're going to do that every time. So every parenting issue, you have to call a moil, so to speak. You always have to call the expert every time. What about you? If Hashem didn't think that you could raise these children, then why wouldn't he only give children to rich mechanchim, if such a thing exists? People who have all the money and all the knowledge about children. They should be the only ones with children. Everybody else should just, that's it, sorry. So infinite wisdom. You have intuition. I always tell the parents in my parenting course, I'm not here to teach you anything. I hope I teach you nothing. There's nothing to learn. There's only some things to unlearn. Some bad habits that are standing in the way. There's nothing to learn. And if you have to memorize anything I tell you, it's already not working. Because this has to be you. This has to be authentic to you, especially with kids. Kids will sniff inauthenticity. They know when you're repeating a line that an expert told you to say. And then they have an answer, and you think, well, they didn't tell me what do you do when the kid, you come in so confident, you have your line, and then the kid comes from left field, he has a totally different response. They didn't tell me what to, they didn't prep me for that. don't memorize anybody's advice. Don't memorize anybody's line. You don't need to. I also tell my parents in the parenting course, we don't do any tips and tricks. How do I do this? How do I do that? I don't know. I don't know. But you're going to know. In the moment, you're going to know the right thing for this child, which may not be the right thing for another child, which may not even be the right thing for that same child in a different moment. But when you're connected, then Hashem will give you the clarity. And I'll tell you another infinite resource we have as parents. Infinite time. You're going to tell me, now you're really pushing it. Infinite time. Time is the last thing that we have in unlimited supply. That's somewhat true. But there's different ways of viewing it. I don't mean quantitatively, I mean qualitatively. Quantitatively, you're right. There's only 24 hours in a day. Some of those hours you're going to have to sleep and eat and work. Even if you only had one child, you couldn't spend all of your time with that one child. And once you have more than one child, now it's even more impossible. So I don't mean quantitatively that you have all the time in the world. But I mean qualitatively, that you have unlimited time. And what do I mean by qualitatively? We all know that there's such a thing as a moment that lasts a lifetime. I could more easily prove it in the negative than in the positive, unfortunately. But if you think about a negative thing that happened for a minute and it traumatizes a kid for life, especially if it's something between a parent and a child. Parent mistreats a child, and that lasts for a lifetime. In fact, even more than a lifetime. It could last multiple lifetimes because the kid brings it with him and it becomes intergenerational. So we all know that in 1 minute, that minute could have an effect for lifetimes. Lashon Rabim. But we also know that the midah tova is meruba al midah pranas. And if 1 minute of negativity could mess a kid up for life, so how much more so 1 minute of parental bonding can set a kid up for life? The problem is you don't see it. You don't notice health, you only notice disease, God forbid. When everything is good, you don't see it. You only see problems. But the truth is, you could be there for your child for a minute, a pivotal minute that really, really counted, where they really needed at that moment to connect to you and feel that you're completely present, and you were there for that. Because instead of feeling rushed, instead of feeling like other things were more important, you said, Hashem, I need this minute, I'm taking it from your clock. And whatever else was going on, you were present for your child. And that minute, even though it was only a minute, bekamos, can strengthen a child for life, be'echos. And not only strengthen the child for his life, but set the child up to be a good parent for their children. So now it's multiple generations. And it was from you, from your side, a minute. So this is what I mean, infinite time. So is it overwhelming? Yeah, it's overwhelming. If you're trying to do it from a godless approach. That's why secular parenting approaches are all tips and tricks. And then no matter how good the tips and tricks are, at some point they run out. At some point, even if you're really good, you're not good enough. There's just too much responsibility. But when we bring Hashem into the picture, then whatever is needed, whatever we're going to need. This child needs more love, they need more patience, they need more wisdom, they need more time. Okay, company credit card, no problem. Now I'll mention something about hiring experts. Was my collar poking out the whole time and nobody mentioned it to me? Why don't people mention? What? The women, was my collar poking out the whole time? Why didn't you tell me? You didn't notice. I promise you the people in the video are going to be the first thing they're going to see. Who's this guy with his collar poking out telling me how to parent? Click. It's the first thing that's going to happen. Promise you. Start again. Okay. Once upon a time, there was 3 Jewish mothers sitting on the boardwalk in Miami Beach. Now, don't laugh yet. Punchline's coming. What about hiring experts? Okay, so here's the thing. Obviously, if your child needs teeth cleaning, so you're going to take them to the dentist. You're not going to clean your child. I hope not. I hope you're not going to try to clean your child's teeth by yourself. Your child needs a checkup. You go to the doctor. So you don't do everything yourself. And so, too, sometimes a child needs other help. They need speech therapy. They need a tutor, whatever. That's fine. But here's what I want to explain to you. I've seen wealthy people who have practically unlimited amounts of money, and not only they can, but they do hire an entire staff for each of their kids. Now, I want to ask you a question. Do you think these kids turn out better than the average kids? What? They hire a whole staff, like literally full-time people, to take care of. I'm not just talking about nannies. I'm talking about people with degrees, with letters after their names. These kids don't turn out better. In many cases, they turn out way worse. So what's wrong there? What 1,000 experts can do for a child will never come close to what one loving parent can do for their own child. So why do we get the expert? Okay, because not everybody knows everything. But here's what I want to tell you. The hatzlacha of the expert is directly proportionate to the investment of the parent. And I don't mean the financial investment, because the rich people I was talking about, they pay all the bills, but they don't know what's going on. Here, you fix my kid. So basically, they removed the child from the most powerful person in the child's life. The most powerful person in the child's life is the parent, because the parent has godly power. Shloisha Shutfin, partner with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They remove the child from the most powerful, influential person in the child's life, meaning from themselves. They give the child to some stranger, and they say, you do it. Now, if the parent is involved in the process, they take the child to the therapy, and they're involved, and they know what's happening, and they're consulting, and then it can be very, very successful. But that's because the parent is involved. And all of that power only comes through one person or two people, the parents, not through the strangers that you hire. So it's a sad thing when we don't know about the power that we have as parents. And I try to make it my business to let parents know the power that they have, and to get in touch with that power, and to stop feeling overwhelmed, and to start doing this miraculous job that they were chosen for. Trying to gauge the time. We were supposed to have started at 8. We started at 8:30. Now it's 9:20. What time did I start? 8:30? I started at 9. I mean, there's the food, they're serving food, so. People are hungry, right? You only ate 4 times today. But you didn't have milk. I don't know who's going to eat lasagna when everybody was eating fleischiks until 6 p.m. What? Cholent was parv? Huh? Somebody thought ahead. Ellie Marcus is here. Ellie. Do me a favor. Ellie Marcus. I'm talking about parenting. I think it would be a wonderful finale. Could I make a request? Would you get up here and sing a song? Or do you need to have your whole setup with your keyboard and everything? Could you be spontaneous? What? I don't know. I'm just going to put. It's one of my favorites, and you do it so beautifully. Okay, so the nigun that I want, the parenting nigun that expresses the underlying desire that children have for their parent. You know where I'm heading? Kol Bayar? Yeah, you knew that's where I was going? But you sing it beautifully in 3 languages. Want to do it? He's a chassid. He's spontaneous. He doesn't need the whole prep. He's very good with spontaneity. Yeah, pull up the words. I'll stall while you. Please. This is a nigun from the Shbola Zayda, who was one of the Talmidei Baal Shem. It says that when he was a child, he met the Baal Shem Tov, and the Baal Shem Tov put his hand on the Shbola Zayda's heart. And from that time on, and for the rest of his life, he became a Varama Yid, because the effect of a tzaddik stays with one for a lifetime. And I might also say that a parent who's connected with Hashem's unlimited resources, their effect also stays with a child for a lifetime.
Okay, then Kol Bayar, off the cuff. Kol Bayar, ono yechisho himeya, ovla bonim, ovavoy koyirei, agishrei unagevald, unagepil der afoter in Wald. Sucht seine Kinder, ay la da da, ay la da da, oh yo ay la da da, ay la da da, ay la da da, oh yo Yebonai, Eichona lachtem asher olai, kach shochachtem, Kinder, wo seid ihr gewesen? Was auf mir hat ihr schon vergessen? Ay la da da, ay la da da, ay na ay la da da da, ay la da da, ay la da da. Yebonai lechu leveisi ki lo yuchal lo sheves yechidi beveisi Kinder Komm zu mir heim, warum mir is metig, so sitzen allein. Rai la ra ra. Oh, yeah, yeah, la da da da, la da da. La da da da, oh, la da da da. Oh, wie nu, eich neilech. Ki ha shoymer oy meid bishar amelech oy foter vi kennen mir gein zu dir yas der shoymer steh doch bei der tin ra la ra ma la ra Ra na yo na ra 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 la ra ra la ra 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 ro na oh na ra 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 Shkai
Okay. So, apparently the lasagna is not ready. Because I'm not under any illusion that if the lasagna were ready, anyone would still be sitting here. I have two questions here. First question. How do I enforce rules without being tough? That's a great question. I like that question. Because the question assumes that you have to enforce rules, which you do. And the question also assumes that it's undesirable to be tough, which is true. So, I'm going to give away a lot of the stuff that I teach in my parenting course. And that's okay. Because if it helps you, then that's the greatest compensation to me. Don't worry, I'm not talking full volume yet. You know why? Because people are still coming in the room. And if I talk full volume, then people also talk full volume. But if I talk quiet while they're still coming in the room, then eventually they get silent. And then eventually I can talk normal. I've done this a few times, so I know that. By the way, that was Hashgacha Pratis, but that's a great example of an answer to your question. A lot of, I don't want to call it crowd control because that sounds kind of trust, but managing people is having certain subtle skills. In other words, can everyone be quiet? I'm trying to start. Can you be quiet, please? Can we stop coming in and out? Can we please stop the conversations? And I'm sure you've seen speakers do that. And not only does it not work, but it causes more of a tumult and then takes longer to get settled. So I've done this a few times. I know if certain pacing, a certain volume that I talk brings down the energy, gets things calm. Eventually, people who are still chatting can hear each other, or they realize other people can hear them, and they get quiet. And then eventually, the room is calm, and then I talk normal. And I didn't have to say a word. So a lot of crowd control is really, really just about not giving explicit orders, especially when giving explicit orders may even backfire, and just calming things down with your energy, with your voice. See, a lot of times our kids are not listening, and then we get stressed, and they feed off of our negative energy. And so we're stressed, and they get stressed, and then they're stressed, and we're more and more stressed. I want to tell you something. So in my parenting course, I talk about 3 Ps. Parenting is not one of them. Parenting is vishinantum levanecha. Parenting is teaching your children values. Then I speak about other 3 Ps that are not parenting: policing, providing, and protecting. Now, policing, providing, protecting are all incredibly important things that parents do for children, to take care of their children, but none of them are parenting. Parenting is only teaching values, and teaching values can only be done when things are calm. Policing, providing, protecting, I'll spell it out. Policing is breaking up fights. You go over there, you go over there. Providing is giving them stuff, even, begashmias, serving them food, packing their lunch. Or it could be emotional, giving them attention, giving them a hug. Protecting, the 3-year-old's running with a knife and you grab it out of his hand. The 15-year-old says, I'm going to be out all night. And you say, no, you're going to come home at 10. That's protecting. So policing, providing, protecting, those are the things we do to ensure safety. But they don't teach anything. That's why you have to do it over and over and over again, because it doesn't teach anything. But we do it anyways, because in the moment, if things are getting crazy and we have to get things settled again, so we will do policing, providing, protecting. We just know that it doesn't have any long-term effect because it doesn't actually teach anything. But when you do it, let's say the policing especially, the key is de-escalation, like any good police officer. One of the cohorts that took my course, it was a women's group, and this woman's husband was a rabbi, and he actually became a police chaplain. And in order to become a police chaplain, he had to ride along with a police officer for like a certain amount of hours. And he went to all their calls, and he saw all the crazy stuff that goes on. And his mentor, like his mashpia in police work, told this chaplain, this rabbi, he says, the key to good policing is de-escalation. He says, the young, inexperienced, power-tripping cops, they make everything more violent than it has to be. But when you're experienced, you know how to control things gently. He says, watch me how I bring down the energy in every single interaction. I bring down the energy. I make it less stressful, and things go smoothly. And he said that's where he learned how to, what police work is. So this woman says, when she said to me, Shais, say that policing is de-escalation, she says that's exactly what my husband's police mentor taught him. It's all about de-escalation. So whenever you need to do police work, whenever you need to break up a fight, whenever you need to say, you go to your room, you go there, you take a breather, whatever it is, low energy, don't give a lot of energy, don't give a lot of eye contact, don't move, don't use a loud voice. That's just going to escalate things. And start experimenting with it, and I think you're going to see that less is more. Less is more. And you're going to bring down the tension in the home, you're going to bring down the stress, and the children naturally are going to listen to you when they feel safe. But when there's high stress and high emotions, and the children don't feel safe, okay, so that's when you have problems with children listening. Another thing I just want to add to that is that the ultimate form of parenting is when the children are so aligned with you, they identify so closely with you, that they automatically do what you want them to do. That's why, like I said, I'm giving away the whole parenting course, but I tell the parents the most important part of parenting, and I don't teach it until week 4, is bonding. Week 4 is all about bonding. One of the things I mention is that the Kuzari says, why did Hashem start this? Today, Taka, Parshas Yisrei, Seres HaDibros.
So Anoichi, why did the Eibishter start a Seres Adibris with Anoichi? There's a lot of questions on that. First of all, it's not really a tzivui. It doesn't tell you to do anything. It's a statement. It's a fact. Second of all, even if the Eibishter wants to make a fact, a statement, why doesn't he say something more impressive? Why doesn't he say, I'm Anoichi Hashem Elokecha Asher barasi es hashamayim v'es. Why is he saying, Asher hitzisicha me'eretz Mitzrayim, I took you out of Mitzrayim? Say, I created the heavens and the earth. So the Kuzari says, in so many words, that before Hashem gives us his mitzvahs, he must first establish that there's a history, and specifically a history of care, where he took care of us. There's an expression, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. So even Hashem wasn't exempt from this rule. Stama, he made the rule. He makes all the rules. But the rule is, you can't tell somebody how to live until they trust that you have their back, that you're taking care of them. Once that's established, then you can tell them, and don't wear shatnez, and don't eat basa b'cholav, and all that stuff, and they're going to trust you. But until you establish that, why are you interfering with my life? So with parents, Allah has kama v'kama, we have to establish trust. A child who trusts their parents will automatically follow the values of the parents. So I always tell parents, like, do you really have your child's trust? Like, really? Do they really trust you? Rav Levi Yitzchak Berditchever says, I learned pshat of Yehavto Reacha Kamecha from two drunks. He says he was in a krechma, he was raising money for Pidyon Shvoyim, and he sees these two drunken Yvans. Some people get drunk and fight. These guys are getting drunk and they were loving each other, or one was trying to love the other, saying, I love you, man, in Ukrainian, however you say that, I love you, man. And the other one's screaming back at him, no, yeah, you don't love me. No, I love you. No, you don't love me. Until the second one says to the first one, if you loved me, you would know what hurts me. So the Berditchever says, atazai. If you would love me, you would know what hurts me. He says, now I know pshat v'yafta re'echa kamecha. There's many pirushim what this mitzvah is. But the Berditchever said, if you love someone, it means you know what hurts them. So you know what you stay up and worry about at night. Do you know what each of your children stay up and worry about at night? You're going to say, my children are little. What do they worry about at night? If that's what you're saying, I need you to stop and remember what it was like to be a child. Because when you're an adult, you think, man, if I would have my kid's life, I would never worry again. Everything's taken care of for them. Okay, and if you would learn Shara B'Tachan, you would not worry with your life either. But I'm saying, okay, we all have our limitations. Your child is worried about stuff. Whether it's they're worried about their grades, or they're worried about the social dynamics in class, or maybe they're worried about something going on in the home. I don't know, but you need to know. So I tell parents, do you know what your child is worried about? Do you have your child's full trust? If you had your child's full trust, you would know these things. You would know what's bothering them right now. And if you don't know these things, if you don't know what's on your child's heart, then there's only two possibilities. Either A, they have nobody to tell, in which case they're terribly alone, which is a terrible tragedy. Or B, they think they found somebody to trust and you don't get to pick who it is. But just know, whatever values that person has that your child is trusting right now, those are the values that are going to start showing up in your child, not your values. We think that we're so intellectual, that we think that we choose our values. We don't. We choose the people that we identify with, and whoever we identify with, whoever is our tribe, those are the values that we take on. You think we choose our social identity based on ideology? No, we choose our ideology based on social identity, no matter how smart you are. And children are certainly no exception to that. So I'll say it in simple English. Whoever they feel safe with, whatever values those people have, that's going to be your child's values. Now you're going to say, but that's not fair. My parents didn't have to do that. My grandparents certainly didn't have to do that. They could be as mean as they wanted to, and they didn't have to worry their kid was going to go find some other way. And I'll tell you, yes, because back then there were very few options. There was nowhere to go. And today, even in the most sheltered communities, there's always somewhere to go. There's no such thing as someone who doesn't have options. Okay, so social pressure holds some people back. So then they check out emotionally, and they still wear the levushim, and they look the part, but they check out internally. So if you want your child to follow your values, the simplest thing is just to be your child's go-to person. If you are their safe person, you are the person that they rely on, that they trust, that they talk to about what's on their heart, then you don't even have to tell them what to do. They're going to live like you. And I hope that you're living right. I mean, that goes without saying. All right, there was another question here. How do I react when my children just don't listen? Example. What does this say? Muktzah. Okay, so a child who's touching muktzah and they're not listening, I don't know the child, I don't know the situation. When I read a question like that, I automatically assume that it's probably a child who can't handle those instructions. I don't know, and I don't know if whoever wrote this wants to answer me, but I'm going to make certain assumptions here. You have to know a child, you have to know their limitations, you have to know what they're capable of listening to. Telling a child to do something that they cannot handle following is worse than not saying anything. You're teaching them to ignore you. You're teaching them not to trust you. You're teaching them that you're not serious. A child who's not listening is probably preoccupied. Farnuman, with whatever, I don't know. Maybe they have something stressful going on. Maybe they're a sensitive child and life itself is stressful. Maybe they're hyper, they have a lot of energy, and just so everything they see, their brain is just busy processing it all. But the point is, when somebody is not in a position to calmly listen, then a little discretion, just back off. Just let it slide. You're going to say, well, how's my child ever going to learn? Your child will learn. You'll teach them in calm settings when they're able to listen. But if you try to force the issue when they're not calm and they can't listen, then not only you're not teaching them about muktzah, you are teaching them to ignore you. A lot of this has to do with just bringing down the tension, just getting things calm. Like right now, great example. Everybody's sitting here calmly. There's very little distraction. I mean, technically, if you wanted to be distracted, by the way, there is distraction. There's doors opening and closing, and there's people, out in the hall, and there's kids coming every. So if you wanted to be distracted, you could be. But the truth is, everyone's kind of calm. Nobody's worried about anything. You ate 5 times today. You're about to eat again. There's nice music. There's a nice hotel. Everyone's calm. Okay, and so I'm talking, and even with my collar poking out, and everyone's just listening. Okay, but isn't that a great illustration to you? Like when everything's calm, everything's nice, everything's taken care of, we're all having a good time, then you could teach. Adarabba, you are your child's primary teacher. You're the most important teacher. You are the most important mechanech. But you have to be smart and don't teach in the middle of a battlefield. Don't teach in the middle of stressful moments. When things are stressful and you got to just move things along, so that's time for policing. Policing is just move things along, de-escalation, as little energy, as little emotion as possible. And then when things are calm, you teach. What else? I only got 2 questions, luckily. Is there more questions? What? You want to hear another song? Should Ellie Marcus come back in and sing another song? Wasn't that great? What? Anything? There's a question back there? What's the question? She doesn't want to ask me. She wants to ask somebody else. How do you gain a child's trust? First, let me tell you how to lose their trust. Because there's sur me'ra v'aseh toiv. Did you hear me? There's sur me'ra v'aseh toiv. Go away from evil and do good. So half of the answer is just a bunch of stuff not to do. And if you just don't do the stuff that loses their trust, you're already going to be ahead. So what are some of the things that lose a child's trust? Anyone know? What? Lying to them, yeah. But what if we have to lie to them? You know, they're only going to do what we want them to do if we lie to them. Should we do it? Not worth it. Not worth it. You're going to lie to them once to get them to do something once, then they never trust you again. It's not worth it. Someone said another thing, judging. Yeah, judging. Adults don't like to be judged, and we're supposed to be mature. Children, for sure. You judge a child, they come to you and they tell you what they did wrong, and you tell them, that's disgusting. Why would you do that? That's so selfish. I can't believe you. Okay, no problem. I'll never tell you again what I did. I hope you have a good investigator, a good private detective, because you're not going to find out, and at least not from me. What else can we do to lose a child's trust? There's some more subtle things that we don't even think of. What? What? Not following through, right. So you say something and you don't do it. Yeah. So, want to know another thing? Lasagna's here. Is it taco? Is it lasagna? Fettuccine Alfredo? Welche soort milchigste geht man essen? Okay. Hot chocolate. So, I'll tell you one last thing, how to lose a child's trust, and you don't even think about it as something that loses their trust, but it's so common, people do it all the time. Being emotionally dysregulated. In simple English, that means losing your cool. If you're reactive, if you can't carry your own stress load, and you are acting in a way that's dysregulated, you know what I mean? You're screaming, you're hollering. How can they rely on you? You're not a safe person. You can't even handle your own stress. So you're not a source of safety. So that's why when your children are around, you act calm. When your husband comes home, you go into a room, you close the door, and you scream at him. And then your husband goes into a room, closes the door, he screams at Hashem. And everyone's happy. But be'emes, we need to show our children that we're able to handle life. And if you're having a hard time handling life, let me recommend Shbat B'tochen. Be'emes, the greatest parenting book is Shbat B'tochen. Learn Shbat B'tochen, become, you know what Shbat B'tochen is about? About trusting in Hashem. You're going to trust in Hashem. You're going to lower your own stress levels. The whole house will come down. It will just be more ruach. The children will be happier. They'll listen more automatically. Everything will go. Everything will just flow. Yeah, okay.